Building a team and really shifting the culture is a conversation that we've been having. And in the previous episode, I talked about culture and shared a few keys and strategies around really shifting your culture to support building more effective sales results in how your business operates. And so today I want to continue with part two. I'm Dr. Nadia, founder of the Doyen Agency and creator of Straight Talk About Sales. And we are talking about how to shift your overall company's culture and how it actually could impact your bottom line. Tune in. So, a conversation I've actually been having with a few clients is, how do we really start to shift from, as the founder, being the sole person responsible for sales, and yet being in a place where I may not, as a founder, feel comfortable, confident, or feel that my company actually is just ready to build out an actual full-blown in-house sales team? What does that interim look like? And so in part one of this conversation around culture shift as it impacts your bottom line, I shared a lot about really getting clear and the importance of clarity around your values, your why, and not just for you as the founder, but also the importance of that for your team, because your team is actually coming alongside you to help you achieve those results that you desire. And so, as part of that, they need to also have an understanding and be clear on what are our company values and why exactly are we doing what we do. Like, that is really, really important. We talked about resistance from your team and what to expect or not expect and how to manage that, but then also that commitment to continued communication, because this is not a one and done thing. As you are looking at your company, as you're scaling, as you're growing, as you're looking at really shifting and, really having this conversation around quiet hiring, because essentially one of the first phases is, how do you leverage the team that you already have with the existing expertise, the existing relationships that you have, and really shifting again culture, because now those roles are now simply focused on their actual role day to day, but they're also now looking at their role in an expanded way, because now it also will encompass sales from a perspective of, how do I, in my role and in what I naturally do, how can I contribute to sales, whether that is bringing in new sales, new clients, or it is retention and re-upping, where people renew to continue working with our organization. Like, both of those are very important, particularly as you're looking to grow and scale your business. And we know as we continue to go through those different milestones in our business, there can be those periods where it feels really hard in terms of, how am I getting new clients? How am I retaining actual clients? What does that look like as my team continues to grow? And my bottom line, my profit margins, like all of that shifts as you continue to bring in more revenue as your business grows. And so a big piece of that I'm finding is, culture shift is imperative. And it's important that we as founders, as those founders that go from that place of, this is my baby, to really starting to look at the business almost from a place of, how do you extract yourself? What would happen to your business if you took you out of it, right? From all the different things that you do in your business, even for those who are like, I love what I do. I get that. It's important. It's probably why you do the work that you do. It's a big piece of it. But then what does your business look like? And that's a great exercise. What does my business look like if I were to take me out? If I were to take me out of the sales process, if I were to take me out of the marketing process, if I were to take me out of the client delivery process, what does the business look like? And it's important to just have that be part of the conversation, have that be an exercise that you do, because then you can really start to see the gaps and opportunities, if you will, for shifting how things are done in your business, even if you're like, Dr. Nadia, I have absolutely no plans to remove me from certain parts of the business. Not a problem, but it's eye-opening when you do take a moment to do that. So that's just an added piece. I did not know that I was even going to talk about that today. That was not in my notes, but I think this is really important that as you're looking at growing and scaling your business, that you're like, wait a minute, what would happen if I took me out? Like if I just took me out of everything, what would happen to this business? Very eye-opening. And then you can make those decisions based on, okay, these are things that I definitely want to keep for posterity. And these are some of the things that I'm open and willing to relinquish at some point, because then you can put together your strategy and your plan for what that process will look like as you continue to grow and evolve and you relinquish those responsibilities. So a couple things that I wanted to share in today's episode were really to open the lines of communication with your team and keep them open. So in the first, part of this, I talked about just a commitment to continued communication. But I think that there's also a deeper level. So you have that, and when I think about like communication, sometimes it's like me as the founder talking to the entire team. So, team meetings, team retreats, those types of environments where it's, you as the founder, as the visionary, sharing that vision, talking about what's going on in the company one to many. But I also don't want you to overlook those opportunities for one-on-one and to really continue to keep the lines of communication open and being open to feedback. So, in part one, we also talked about potential resistance. I actually said not to expect it because I think that that's kind of our default. We're preparing for people to push back. But I also want you to be open to just feedback either way. What are some of the things that the team is experiencing? What are some of their ideas? Because again, as you're shifting the culture, and part of the buy-in is if your team has input in what this could potentially look like and how they could help this roll out as you're making this shift as your business continues to grow and evolve and scale, right? And so I think that there's power in obviously you being clear and having a level of clarity, but then also taking a stance of, I don't know it all, right? I'm the visionary. I have ideas. There are things that I want to see. There are things that I want to accomplish, but I by no means know it's all, right? And that is why you already have an existing team that you brought in for their level of expertise, and you can continue to tap into that. So by making sure to open up those lines of communication, whether it's more formal or informal, and really inviting your team to share their insight and their input into how this could really work and what are the things that they see. Because sometimes, here's the thing, we don't always see everything. And I know sometimes we take on a lot of responsibility as founders. We're like, oh my gosh, I got all these responsibilities. But one of the things, the beautiful things that I am learning is to really rely on my team. And so I have an idea and I take it to them like, hey, I'm not married to this idea. This is the thing that I want. So I may be committed to making a culture shift, but how we do that, and not especially to not have it be disruptive to the business, is let's pull the team in. Let's talk about it, right? So you can make it formal where you, like when we work with companies and teams, often will do an assessment to allow the team to share their input, their feedback, their ideas, how they really feel about it. So it's usually anonymous, right? Completely anonymous. I have no idea who said what, but this is what they said, right? Good, bad, ugly, indifferent, it doesn't matter. Get it all out so that you can address it. It also really eliminates what we think, right? Because sometimes we're too close to our teams, or we think we know what they're going to say. We think we know how they feel, and that's not always accurate. I shared a story. I had a client did an assessment with her and her team, completely anonymous. So we, again, had no idea. I had yet to meet the team, so I really had no idea who said what or no tone of voice or right. It was really good for our team to come in and do that because we were coming in completely blind, which was good for that piece of it, right? And so we have a meeting, we're sharing information, feedback, here's so far the entries that we've received, here's some of the responses. And she was absolutely I was going to say 100%, but pro like 95% sure that one of the responses that we'd received was from this particular person. Come to find out, girl, she was wrong. That was not the person who said it. But again, that is why it's so important to have it. So that was a little more what I would say formal, right? We had a window, we had, certain questions that we sent out. We asked the team to share by a certain deadline so we could gather that information. But you could have something that's a little more informal. You could create your own assessment, your own questions, and pose them to the team, allow it to be anonymous and have it be a little more informal. You mean make it a game, right? And have the team share ideas and brainstorm, right? So however you feel that will really help the team get engaged, get buy-in, get excited, get behind this shift, then be open to that, but be open to keeping the lines of communication open, because there are so many moving pieces to this when you're talking about shifting a culture, that you want to really trust the experts and the experience that's already on your existing team. And then, of course, any new people that you bring on, then you get to pull on that too from them. The other thing is, what does your team need in order to be successful? So when we're talking about this transition and leveraging your existing team and kind of shifting their roles, some instances it's a big shift, some instances it's not, but really in all instances it's shifting how they see their role, right? And it goes again from just these are my tasks and this is it, to really taking a more expanded view of these are my tasks, but this is how what I do in this role impacts sales. Again, either new incoming sales and or client retention, right? And renewals, depending on how your business is set up and structured. So in that, what does your team need in order to be successful? So even in those instances when you're not making a big overhaul and you're not adding a bunch of tasks to a particular position, there still may be resources that your team will need in order to succeed and what it is that you are asking them to do. So really be open. Again, that's why communication is so important, and really creating a culture where people feel safe coming to you and being like, hey, here's what I hear you saying and what you've asked me to do. I may not know how to do that. I may have some fear around doing that. Can you send me to a class? Can you refer me to a website where I can read through it? Is there a how-to? Are there SOPs that need to be created, right? Like, what does your team need in order to be successful? Sometimes it's a conversation. It's as simple as a conversation. Here's what I need, being really clear on kind of mapping that out. Other times it's a little more complex. So again, being open and then understanding that the team is going to need some level of support, and then making the commitment to doing what it is that you can do in order to equip them to be successful. I think sometimes as leaders, as founders, if we're not careful, we have to check our own biases, our own assumptions that we make about people. And it can be tempting to just put people in a box, or to say, all of my team is lazy, right? You've probably heard that in some of your management theory. If you took any management or business courses, in college or high school. And so in that, you think about, where are my biases playing in? Where are some of my assumptions that I make about team? And again, how do I not allow that to impact the results? Because if I assume assumptions, right, and I have a bias that I'm the only person on this team that really cares about how things play out in this company, then when I'm talking to my team about making a shift, there's an underlying tone, whether I ever say it verbally, that people pick up on, that I'm truly the only one who really cares, right? And so that's just an example of some of the biases that may be playing in the background. So we want to take time as the leaders, as we're communicating these shifts, as we're communicating our vision, to check ourselves. Like, hold up, time out. Let me check me to make sure that I'm not allowing some assumptions, which are often false, that I'm not allowing negativity that I'm not allowing past experiences to color how I see this going and impacting my vision, that I am allowing the possibilities and the excitement of what can be to drive this versus allowing my fears, doubts, insecurities, all of that to bubble up. And I ultimately become the one to sabotage the very thing that I say I want. So, in that, as you're preparing, as you're equipping, as you're having conversations, there's a lot of self checking going on because this honestly can bring up a lot of doubt. It can bring up a lot of insecurity. You're talking about, shifting a culture, shifting your business, really taking it to the next level. And all of that sounds great until you get into the work. And so I want you, as you're going through this process with your team, to just, have those periodic checks. Maybe have your mastermind, your coach, if you have one, your peers, some of those trusted partners, your spouse, if or partner, if it won't cause problems in that particular relationship, right? To be able to have a safe space for you to talk about some of the things that you may be experiencing, some of the doubts that you may have, which also leads me to number 3 for this particular episode is for you as the leader, as the founder, as the CEO, whatever title it is you want to, grab onto today, to be willing to be vulnerable and transparent parent with your team. Now, this one can be hard, right? To be willing to be vulnerable and transparent with your team. So, what does that look like? It can sometimes look like, guys, I don't know what's going on. I have no idea what it is that we're doing right now. This is my vision, and together we will figure it out. It could look like finding, you don't have to open the company books. Like that may not be the level of transparency you're going for, but finding metrics that maybe you haven't shared before, but because as a result of this shift in culture, there's certain metrics that you're now willing to share with the team to add a layer of transparency to where they can see into the company at a level that you may not have allowed before or been open to before or even considered before. Like, what are some of those things that you can do to take it another level, right? Because again, this can be scary. This can be overwhelming. This can feel like a lot. You don't yet sometimes know how your team may respond. You want the business to continue operating. Like you're doing this in order to really take the business to the next level. So the last thing you want is to feel like this is backfiring. But at the same time, we also have to understand that we're asking, in some instances, our team to do things that may be uncomfortable, maybe that they don't necessarily feel qualified for, that they may feel is completely out of their scope, depending on how we position it. Or, depending on the business's needs, the businesses may need, depending on how big your team is, I may really just need somebody to step up because I don't have anyone else to do that in this moment, right? So depending on where you are, there are a lot of factors that may impact how you address this, how you approach it. And so it's important that you also look at where are areas where I can be more vulnerable with my team, more transparent, again, more communicative of what this process looks like. Because again, this isn't a one conversation, we're done, the company's culture is shifted and everything is now all hunky-dory, right? So it's important that we make that commitment, but then we also look for those opportunities for the team to really understand and, I would dare say, feel what we feel our heart, if you will, as we're going through this particular transition. Because when people have bought in to the vision and they know that you actually care and they feel like they understand that we're all in this together. And if I, as a team member, may be feeling a little doubt or a little fear around this transition, and then to learn that you, as the founder, as the visionary, may also feel similar fears or concerns or doubts, like what kind of synergy can that really create? And it may sound counterintuitive, but it really builds connection that, dude, we are all in this together because ultimately we are all in this together, right? And moving this forward. And I know it may feel like, ooh, Dr. Nadia, you're asking for a lot, but trust me, trust the process. When you take the time to really open the lines of communication, be willing to be vulnerable and transparent, and look for ways to set your team up for success. Whew, I'm telling you, it will completely change everything, and it will continue to set you up for success in actually seeing this shift happen, even if it doesn't happen as quickly as you would like. So I'm telling you, as you're thinking about growing, as you're going through that process of scaling, as you're looking at your systems and your revenue and your sales goals for this year, your sales results for this year, really start to look at, how is my culture? How is my organization, my company, my team's culture ultimately impacting the things I say I want to see in this business? And especially if you're running into roadblocks or you feel like you're hitting some ceilings, sometimes I need to look around at what's going on, at the things that sometimes aren't as obvious as others, and make a commitment to, hey, we're going to be in this together as a team, as a company, as an organization. We shift the culture where we're all in this together. And when I say all in this together, we're all into helping this company move forward, helping this company grow, helping this company generate revenue, helping this company make sales, helping this company, get and retain clients, helping this company have clients who have an amazing, stellar experience, so that they not only want to continue to work with us, but then they refer others. Like, that's what I'm like. We're in it together. And how can you bring everyone in, if you haven't already, so that we're all on the same page and everyone knows their role, their seat on the bus, if you will, on how they contribute to that and ultimately to your bigger vision. So just some things to think about. Again, part 2 of this conversation: open up the lines of communication, look for those ways, formal and informal, identify the things that your team needs for success, commit to getting them so that they can actually be successful. And then again, be willing to be vulnerable and transparent. Like I said, you don't have to open up the complete books, but there is power in having a level of transparency so people know, like, why am I doing this? And what difference does it make? And how is this, because people have questions. Some people have more questions than others, but people have questions. And the more they know and the more they understand, the more they can wrap their arms around this and get on board with moving this forward. So if you are like, Dr. Nadia, that sounds great, and we would love your team support, we would love to support you in making a shift. I get so excited about it. So head over to our website at thedoyenagency.com, schedule some time to chat with us. You can email us at hello@thedoyenagency.com. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. Any questions you may have about this topic or ideas for future podcasts, please send those in too. We would love to hear from you. All right. So this is Dr. Nadia with another episode of Straight Talk About Sales. We will see you again soon. Bye-bye.